There are 5 states in Germany with a very easy application process for foreign trained medical doctors, and not so many doctors know about them. And that means the total time between your application and your recognition, or the so-called Approbation, is actually shrunk down into a very short amount of time. You might have heard of the very terrible bureaucracy which is in German, and the long waiting amounts of time that one must endure before they get themselves recognized in German as a professional worker, or as a doctor for that matter. Now the good news is that not all states or Bundesländer are annoyingly very slow. So in this video I'm going to share with you the 5 states with the easiest application process for foreign trained medical doctors. These also happen to be very wonderful states with very beautiful cities and a very high demand for doctors. Now stick around until the end of the video, because at the end of the video I want to share with you guys what I think are the 2 states, in my opinion, with the most complicated bureaucracy that, if possible, you should stay away from as a medical doctor applying to start working in Germany. And before we start, let me just say that I rank these states based on doctors' demand, as in how many doctors are actually on demand when it comes to that particular state, the support system from the staff at the administrative district, the bureaucracy level, how complicated and how flexible are they in their systems, the exam waiting time, the hardness of the exam. Each state sets its own exams. How hard are the exams for that particular state, because it's not the same exam set across Germany for medical professionals like how it is in the USA or in the UK, and the overall processing time, as in how long does it take when one has done everything, including the exams, for them to actually get their license. Now, all this data is official from the 2024-2025 updated official sites and recent forms, plus also real testimonials from people who have had real experiences, like for example myself. Hi guys, welcome. My name is Melk. I am a medical doctor. I live here in Bonn, Germany, and I moved about 2 years ago from Uganda. As usual, please like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and leave a comment in case you have any specific question. And without any further ado, let's roll to the video. Now, starting in number 5 is Sachsen, or what in English is known as Saxony. It is found in the eastern part of Germany, with its capital as Dresden and the largest city being Leipzig. I know you guys might be familiar with Leipzig because Leipzig is kind of a bigger city, well known for, of course, its football and all that kinds of stuff. So you might be familiar with Leipzig. It has been opening up very many opportunities for foreign doctors to come in and help them, because they have quite a high demand of medical professionals in that state. They have even gone on to introduce very flexible regulation measures to help foreign trained medical doctors to come in and even start working before they get full license. Someone starts to work under supervision as they're in the recognition process, which is actually a very good thing. The processing time from this state is actually reasonably very fast, and the local authorities are quite cooperative. This state is also very well endowed with very many hospitals that you could actually work at. These hospitals provide lots of opportunities for hospitation that you need, but also, of course, they serve as future employment opportunities for you once you come to Germany. So hospitals like Klinikum Chemnitz, Universitätsklinikum Leipzig. Now, the icing on the cake for this particular state is that the cost of living is really low compared to very many other states in Germany. Generally speaking, let me just say that Eastern Germany has a lower cost of living compared to Western Germany. So the cost of living is quite low. I'm sure you would enjoy yourself working in this state, because things like rent are really low, and then groceries, food, and public transport, these are very affordable aspects of this state that you could enjoy as a foreign medical doctor who would want to work in Germany. Let me just put out a caveat that although their minimum language requirement before you take your first medical licensing exam is B2, I highly recommend that you study your language until C1, because that simply puts you into a better competitive position. So the 4th easiest state when it comes to the approbations process is called Mecklenburg-Vorpommern. It is found in the northeast part of Germany. Its capital is Schwerin. It's considered to be one of the most beautiful cities in Germany. What makes it even better is that it has a higher demand compared to Sachsen for medical professionals. So because the demand is higher, the response time is quite quick compared to very many other states in Germany. Generally speaking, Mecklenburg-Vorpommern does not receive so many applications as compared to other states in Germany. So its Kenntnisprüfung and its Fachsprachenprüfung are considered to be some of the easiest in the whole of Germany compared to very many other states with very less bureaucracy and very low waiting times. So you want to consider going to Mecklenburg-Vorpommern if you are a medical doctor on your Approbationsjahr with prospects of actually working in Germany at some point. Now the cost of living is even surprisingly lower compared to Sachsen. So with the low cost of living, usually a normal person requiring about 160 euros per month, yeah, for their groceries and airtime and few other things there, including fuel and other stuff. That would be like a drop in an ocean to the beginner's salary. I mean, to the salary of a doctor who is simply a beginner in the system, which is usually a net of about 3,100 euros. The minimum language requirement for this state is actually also B2, but like I said, I still encourage you to do until C1 if it's possible, because it just puts you into a competitive advantage. Usually people have C1, somebody just looks at you as somebody who is slightly more serious compared to the other people who have the bare minimum. So have your C1 certificate and then throw in your application. Mecklenburg-Vorpommern would be, I think, a very good state for you. Now in third place is a state called Schleswig-Holstein. Yes, a very beautiful, wonderful name, Schleswig-Holstein. So this state is actually found in the northernmost part of Germany, with its capital being Kiel. It's neighboring Denmark. So its administrative district is actually found in the city of Neumünster. By administrative district, I mean the district which is responsible for processing all applications of foreign professionals. Generally speaking, they also have a high demand of doctors compared to very many other states in Germany, even better than the first we've talked about. Now, being the northernmost part of the city, usually people have just come to Germany. Very many people don't actually like going to the northernmost part of Germany. I don't know why. Probably it's because of the weather. But many people usually want to settle around Berlin, around the western part of Germany. And so that means generally fewer applications. And because of that, the backlog is also not as much. That means everything moves quicker. Their exam is also one of the easiest when it comes to the recognition process. This is what reports say online. So their exam is not as complicated as some of the states that we'll maybe talk about in some other video, or yeah, like the last that I'll talk about in this video. The time between the application and you having your date of the exam is actually very short. Yeah, exactly. Other than that, of course, it is near Denmark. That means you can easily go to Denmark whenever you want. And just slightly south of it is Hamburg, one of the most beautiful cities in Germany. Now, the downside for this state is that it has quite a bad weather compared to other states in Germany. It has very cold winters. It is not as terrible cold as it would be in, for example, countries like Greenland or Iceland or the Baltic countries of Finland and all this stuff. But generally speaking, when it comes to comparing all parts of Germany, it's one of those coldest parts of Germany. Yeah, just to put it in there for you to know. Now in number 2, can you guess? This is actually very surprising for me. I didn't know that this state or city rather comes into place number 2. It's pretty shocking. The biggest city and the capital city of Germany comes in place number 2 when it comes to the application process and how easy it is for one to be an approbator artist. I think that's a pretty good thing. I was actually surprised when I was doing this research for this video. I was like, what? Berlin? You might be surprised, why is Berlin also belonging among the states? Yet we thought Berlin is a city. Well, actually Berlin is a city, but it also doubles as a state. It's kind of one of those 3 states in Germany that are both cities and states. So we have Berlin, Bremen, and I think another one which I've forgotten. Berlin is, of course, the capital city of Germany. It is very international. Most likely when you hear of Germany, the first thing you think about is Berlin. The Berlin Wall. It comes in place number 2 because it has the biggest population in Germany, and because of its big population, there is quite a high demand for doctors or medical professionals. It has a very decentralized system. They don't just have one office, they have kind of decentralized it, so they make it easier for applicants. The other thing is that the guidances are very readily available. The staff is very helpful. They even guide in English, compared to other states in Germany. I just remember actually when I was making my own application, when I was applying in NRV, I called them and I wanted to find out how everything goes and all that. The lady on the other side of the phone told me, what? Sie müssen auf Deutsch sprechen. You must speak in German. You cannot speak in English because you're planning to work in German as a doctor. So I was like, what? So I had to struggle with my broken German by then and kind of try to communicate my inquiries and all that. But in Berlin, it's different. You can even give those guys a call and you're going to have a conversation in English. They'll guide you accordingly. Of course, when it comes to working, you still have to work in German. The minimum language requirement for your application is also B2. So Berlin is a good one. Very decentralized, very populated. They have a high demand for doctors and it's an easier application process. Actually, it is said that in Berlin, once you have collected all your documents together, the process takes about 3 to 6 months. Can you imagine? That's a very short time compared to how long I've literally waited here in NRV. So if you've not yet started applying this process, consider applying Berlin. Berlin is a good one. They're of course a very international city. There are very many people who speak in English. Actually, there are people who I know who stay in Berlin. They've been in German for about 10 to 12 years or even more. And these guys can hardly put together a statement in German. Why? Because in Berlin, almost everybody speaks English. So it could actually double as a downside for you in case you're somebody who wants to really improve your German and speak more fluently. That could be downside number one. But downside number two would be that Berlin is also a pretty expensive city. Now, that's a big one. When it comes to things like accommodation, it comes just second to München or Munich. Those will be the two downsides. Otherwise, Berlin lies in number two when it comes to how easy it is for you to go through your application process. Now, the long-awaited one and only number one state in Germany, which has the easiest application process for medical professionals, is the state of Niedersachsen or Lower Saxony. Its capital is Hanover or Hanover in English. It comes from the northern aspect and then descends down to about the middle part, though Hanover is found almost in the middle of Germany. They have a very streamlined system. Recently, according to the recent reports, they say they have updated all their systems. They are processing things very fast. The waiting time is the shortest in German when it comes to getting appointments for the exams. Generally, the whole waiting time is shrunk down to a very, very, very short time. And also, they have a relatively easier exam compared to all the other states in Germany. So Niedersachsen is pretty a good one. Actually, when I was doing the research, I was like, you know what? I wish I did this research before I threw in my application, because if I knew earlier, I think I would have thrown my application in Niedersachsen. In case you are somebody who is considering applying to be recognized in German as a medical doctor and you've not yet made your decision to which state you actually want to engage in, I highly recommend that you go Niedersachsen, Lower Saxony. Now, before I share with you guys my last two states that I think that you should absolutely stay away from if you are a medical doctor and you are in this application process, please consider liking the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and just leave a comment in case I've said something which is maybe accurate or inaccurate. Yeah, leave a comment. So, in my opinion, these are the two states that I think you should absolutely stay away from because of their very long bureaucracy and how complicated their system is, and also how hard their exam is, their Kenntnisprüfung and their Fachsprachenprüfung. Number one, NRV. This is a state where actually I am right now. I did my F.S.P here already and finished it, and then I'm waiting to do the Kenntnisprüfung. I am studying for it. NRV or Nordrhein-Westfalen has a very, very, very huge backlog. Why? Because almost everybody wants to settle in NRV. It has the biggest population. The biggest population in Germany is found in NRV. It's found in cities of Cologne, Bonn, Münster, and all these other cities here. If possible, stay away from these. If you want to do your thing very fast and pretty quickly and finish, stay away from this state. But if you're already in the process, don't worry, you will get done. Maybe I'm speaking to myself. It's soon coming to an end. Then state number two is Bayern. Same story. It also has a very long bureaucracy. Their exam is also complicated. So it's a state that you would like to stay away from at all costs if you haven't already started. But once you're in the process, it's not something to discourage you. I think you can still do it. However hard the exam is, if you passed medical school, you can still pass this exam. So no worries. If you're somebody who is actually wondering, how do I actually apply for the medical licensing exam in German, just consider checking out this video here, because in this video, I go into much detail of how the actual process goes step by step. And then you can just check out this playlist, because in this playlist it has everything to do with the application process. How long does it take? How much does the exam cost? So just check out that playlist. Other than that, please consider liking the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and leave a comment or a question. Then reach out to me in my personal DMs for any specific questions. I always try as hard as possible to answer every single question right in there. Until the next one, bye and peace.